I think with Mesa over the last few days, a conversation that has come up, and in some of the conversations on the side even, that are particularly meaningful to me and where I feel like I'm getting to grow is around a very important aspect of the mission of God. Is a very, very important aspect of the mission of God is the kind of people we become. You know, I hear conversations about being people who are genuinely loving towards their neighbor, or who are courageous in their activism, or who are compassionate or empathetic in their treatment of others. And so I just think there's something in this conversation at Mesa that makes me think, wow, can I too come along and become a more deeply loving and a more deeply joyful person? You know,
Yeah.
God is very interested in the kind of people that we're becoming while we live on mission with Him, and as we serve others. You know, I think He wants to form in us the character of Christ.
One of the very important conversations I've been able to have here at Mesa is a conversation about gender justice, because talking about gender equality is simply looking at leveling the playing fields. And if you imagine a football match being played on a field angled like this, it's like the men got to play on this side and the women got to play on this side, and then suddenly we realize, hold on, there's inequality, and so we leveled the playing fields. And that's gender equality. Gender justice is about finding ways to equal the score. And so that's been an important conversation for me, especially as a woman in leadership in the church, for us to talk about practical ways that we can begin to level the scores, or at least bring some kind of resolution as far as that vast inequality is concerned. Another conversation I've been able to have here at Mesa has been around systems and how we change systems, what points of leverage there are in looking at whole systems, different ways to measure economical growth and to redefine the word economy. And then I think also just that some of the conversations are just, hi, how are you? I haven't seen you in 2 years, or it's been 3 years since we've not been together, or I really appreciated what you said about this particular issue. So reconnecting with friends has been a very important part for me. Then also to find that the kinds of things I've been discerning and the kinds of things that I feel God inviting me to is also something God's been inviting other people to. And so we've already been in relationship for a while, and we're part of networks, but there's this kind of convergence of different pathways and coming together. And I think breaking the isolation just makes it possible to not be so lonely, really, to find fellowship and to find communion and to connect on that deep level that helps you think, hey, I'm not crazy. There's other people who are crazy too. Or I should say, I'm not crazy by myself. I'm crazy in a community of crazies, and that's fabulous.
The beautiful thing is that there's about 40 people here with 40 amazing stories and 40 amazing lives and conversations. What has been very beautiful for me is to open myself to seeing how others are engaging in living out the word of Jesus in their life. So not just from a political conflict area. How are we dealing with the environment? How are we dealing with economic structures? What is the message of Jesus in systemic understandings of organizations and operations? How are we understanding the Bible and living out the Bible? So I could say every conversation for me has been very enriching in hearing people who are not just coming from a theological perspective, but living the word in their lives on the ground, in situations where many people will not live this. But they are living it because they feel this is what Christ calls them to do. And just this image I have of, imagine if the Christian community globally just lives out the simple message of what Christ calls us to do, how this world would be an amazingly different place. So when I look at Mesa, I see a small group, but then I have the vision of a bigger group of Christians around the world living this life in them.
As I've been in conversation with women and men from around the world, I'm thinking specifically of a conversation that I had with Juan Carlos from Argentina. And well, here we are in different parts of the world. I'm a Canadian living in the United States. He's in Argentina, and yet such similar practices. You know, we're both working in the academy, and yet we both are seeking to follow Christ into our own neighborhoods and to really, in very tangible, real ways, allow the complexity of our neighborhoods to call forth new ways of being in the world. In my neighborhood, for instance, there's 38 languages spoken as first language. And so to be a good neighbor means to learn what it is to be in relationship with others. And to hear Juan Carlos talk about a very similar kind of thing in his context, all of a sudden there was a bond. It's like, here we are worlds apart and yet experiencing something of what God is doing in our midst. So encouraging. Oh, I touched the mic.